Have there been any major modifications in it?
Yeah, I had a lot of the woodwork remodeled around on the outside. A lot of the molding and everything was bad, and I had all that taken down and put up new molding.
How long ago was that?
That's been about 4 years ago.
I see. But 50 years or 60 years ago, no changes?
Oh, no change. 60 years ago.
Tell us about the house that was here before this one.
The house that was here before this was in front of this house.
Right behind where I'm sitting.
And yeah, I think. And it was a two-story house. What you might say, a story and a half. And after this house was finished and they could move in, why then they tore that old house down. That's where my grandfather Johnson Perkins lived.
Well,
Then I have to look at it.
yeah. Okay, so it's running now. So do we rewind it now? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, we're just.
Mother, Aunt Clara, you all were both born in this house, weren't you?
That's right. We certainly were.
When was it built?
1898.
1898?
1898.
And how much did it cost then?
$1,800.
You remember
How
who?
much was labor and how much was materials for the house?
What was that man's name?
Lydy Robert.
Yeah, Lydy.
Well, I said how much was the cost of the material and how much was the cost of the labor?
The material was $800 and labor $1,000.
Is your house close by, Daddy?
Yeah, about a mile and a half.
It's not there anymore, is it?
No, it burned down.
When did it?
Was it at all like this house?
This is a two-story house. It wasn't like this one.
Much finer.
Big house though.
What?
Was much finer house?
No, I expect it was less finer.
Well, now you had electric lights and all long before we did.
In 1894? When did you have electric
No,
light?
you didn't live up there in 1890.
We had electric lights in 1951. First time we had electricity here. I mean,
I don't remember having any electric lights when we lived there. We might have had a Delco light.
Well, that's what we had.
Now, what was the Delco light?
We had a Delco system here for many years until 1951 when we got the REA light.
Well, that's electricity
Yeah,
from
that's
batteries.
Yeah,
Just had a whole room full of batteries.
that's right.
Used to be some of those old batteries around here.
Well, we sold all of them.
And when did you get that system?
Yeah, what?
When did you get the Delco system?
Oh, we had that, I guess,
50-something.
no, that's when we got the REA.
Oh,
We had the Delco system, I guess, about 1925 or 30.
That sounds about right, because I remember it was here ever since I can remember.
Yeah.
It had a gasoline generator, didn't it?
Well, I remember my father died in 1925, and then soon after that, why, we bought the Delco system.
We moved away from here in 1916,
Where'd you move to, Daddy?
Chilhowie, Virginia.
And were you married then?
Oh, no.
There's a story famous in this family about the move from here to Chilhowie, about you taking a cow across the hill. Would you please describe that incident as best you remember it?
Well, Dean and I drove the cow, and one of the tenants on the farm went with us to the top of the mountain. And,
Which mountain would this be?
it wasn't the White Top. He went beyond that. I've forgotten the name of that other mountain. Iron Mountain, I guess. And he showed us a path to take down the hill on the other side so we wouldn't have to go all the way around the road winding around. cut off a little, and then we hit the first paved road we'd ever seen, and went on into Chilhowie on the paved road.
That's the first time you'd seen a paved road.
That's right.
Wow.
And you knew you found civilization.
How long did it take you to get that cow across the mountain?
Well, I don't know. I guess we went 3 miles an hour, and it's about 26 miles.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about, let's see, about being kids here. You all pretty much grew up together now?
Sure. Oh, you mean
The three of you.
the three of us? Of course we did. Our mothers were real close friends. We played together all the time. And
And Granddaddy, where was your house?
You know where Aunt Liddy used to live?
Yes, they're up around the corner of the...
Right there, part of the old house is there. The concrete in the back of it, which made a spring house and a cellar. It didn't burn, and they built on top of that, or in front of it.
And so, tell us about it. You all went to school together and everything?
Well, we all went to school together. We joined the church together up here at the Helton Methodist Church.
and we got married together. You want me to tell you the story
These
about?
two and Alda went to school on a mule, all three of them.
All three of them on a mule?
Yeah, all three of us rode the mule.
Well,
I rode in the. Claire, did you ride in the saddle or did I?
well, now who it
I
was...
rode behind.
Now, Clara, you were the oldest,
I was the oldest,
and then
but
came...
my daddy didn't let me go to school the first day until Mattie was old enough to go.
First day.
The first, when she was 6 years old.
Mhm.
I was 7 when I went, and we entered school the first day and stayed in the same grade. And then we went to high school together and also to college. We finished at Marion Junior College same time. We started teaching.
Taught school together.
Well, now tell us about... Where was the school that you all went to?
Lansing.
No,
No.
You know
I
where
thought
the
you meant
community
where we
building
taught.
is
Right
now?
up here at the community building.
Yeah, at the community
Oh,
building.
yeah.
It was out in front of there.
It was an old building. It was called the Helton Academy at that time.
And this was a one-room school now?
No, it was 3
no,
rooms.
they consolidated it with the Lansing school.
Was that a public school?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a public school.
3-room school, and they had the high school in one room, and
Grades. Elementary grades.
Daddy, did you start the same time they did?
Yeah, we started the same day.
I guess we did.
He said,
And
he said it took him a long time to decide to marry me. He said he was 5 years old when he made up his mind.
well, that was due to the Sunday School Association then.
Probably was.
Now, what was school like? Tell us, how long did you go to school, and what was the school year like?
We had to sit on long benches. And we didn't
Just
have...
rustation benches. We had desks. And then we'd go to the front. The teacher was up in the front.
I can remember when we didn't have desks. When
I didn't go there.
Yes, you did.
No, we'd go up to the rustation bench.
But we did later, but that first, we all sat back on these other long benches, and then when she'd call the class, we'd go up to the front and all sit up in the front. That's when we sat on the long bench.
I remember something else about driving the cow. We had a horse that Dean and I rode till the man came back, and then he rode the horse back, and we had to walk the rest of the way. So we didn't walk all the way to Chilhowie.
Ah, it's just correct. Well, was it your horse? It was his horse?
It was Daddy's horse, our horse.
Then how did but the horse came back to Helton, and you all
Dad
went
came back to Helton with the man that went with us.
But then you guys had moved to Chilhowie, and you lost your horse.
Well, we still had a farm over here.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize that.
Lieutenant was running the farm while you all were in.
That's right.
Of course, I guess he was running the farm anyway, since your daddy was a doctor, wasn't
That's right, he was.
he? Did he deliver these ladies here?
Yes, he did.
Dr. Pennington.
Oh, did I thought it was Granddaddy Jones.
No.
Well, let's hope that there's no confusion there.
Well, back to school, when we went to elementary school up here, I want Daddy to tell you about an April Fool trick they played. Was it April Fool or was it just meanness?
Can you zoom in?
When you carried the wood in, you had to, he kept you in for something.
Well,
And
I don't know, he was punishing us by making us each carrying a load of wood. And we got by with just one load of wood. First one carried it in, threw it out the window, and the next one picked that up and carried it.
They didn't cut but one load of wood. Carried the same load of wood.
And the teacher, of course, got into the wood bin and discovered he had one load of wood.
Were your teachers always men then?
No,
well,
we had Miss Todd in the first grade.
teacher.
And cousin Clara Perkins taught all of us.
Yeah, she taught
How
I
long
guess
did she
5th,
teach
6th,
school?
7th grade. Or something
Well,
like
I
that.
don't know how many years she did teach school.
50 years, I guess, at least.
I imagine.
It didn't take you that long to get out.
How long did the school season go? Did you go pretty much from September to June, or was there stopping during the
No,
crop
we got
season?
out in May. I remember.
We
I
stopped-
got a prize for something, and the prize was a book, and it's written in the book. I still have it. The 10th of May. That was when we had commencement.
Yeah, I have a book, a prize that I won, at commencement for making the speech.
You
know.
did?
And I was 14 years old. I remember that. And
I
about
can't
the book.
imagine you going on that stage and making a speech.
No, don't you know? It's restation. Restation, or whatever you call it.
I don't care.
Oh, you can't remember that?
No, you were too shy.
No, I wasn't too shy then.
Well, Aunt Clara, that was when you were graduating from what?
Well, we had commencements after every year, at the end of school every year.
I see.
You'd
And
have
that
a
was
program.
just a program.
Yeah.
Everybody
I was
had to
just
do
on the
something.
program.
Well, then how old were you when you went to Marion?
Marion,
I was 18. You must have been about 17.
I must have been.
And you had 2 years there.
Yeah,
Did you spend the whole year?
No, Claire, we were younger than that because we were over there 4 years.
we were over there 4 years, but we graduated in 22. That was 1918, the fall of 1918 when we went.
Tell us about your family. Let's start with the Perkins family. Sisters and brothers and all that.
Oh, well, there's 5 of us. Ed Perkins was the oldest of the 5 children, and then Stella was
10 years
10
younger.
years younger than Ed, and then Clara was next. I was next, and I was there's 10 years between Stella's and Clara and my age, and then Mattie was next, and there's a year and a half between us, and then Alta was the last one, and
3 years younger than I.
yes, Mattie was 3 years old when Alta was born.
Papa said everybody thought he had 2 wives and we were the second litter. Because Stella and our brother were so much older.
So how much difference was there between your brother Ed and Alta? There must have been
Oh,
quite a few years.
Yeah, quite a few.
About 21 years.
I was 8 years old when my brother married.
Did you all play together at all? I mean, the younger group and the older group? What was?
Oh no.
Oh, no. Brother Ed's
no.
away from home most of the time.
Our sister Stella looked after us. She was almost a mother to us. She just
Made our clothes.
made her clothes. And, she went with Alta when Alta went to the hospital. When Alta was 10 years old, she went with her to Johns Hopkins Hospital and stayed with her the whole time that she was there.
She had a bone disease, osteomyelitis, and was at Johns Hopkins Hospital one whole summer. Stella stayed with her while she was up there.
Did she actually stay in the hospital?
No,
No,
she had a room
she had a
near
room.
the hospital.
Well, how about doctoring? Was Granddaddy Jones your doctor?
Yeah, he was
Yes,
at that
he was
time.
our family doctor.
And he had a young doctor to come and help him that summer while her Alta was sick, and he brought him down to see Alta, and this young doctor said, get her to the hospital as quickly as you can. Said she's going to have to be in the hospital and have surgery. And so Alta wasn't able to ride in a wagon or in the buggy, and we had no way to get her to the hospital, so they made a stretcher, and they carried her to Tuckerdale on the stretcher. 4 men carried her to Tuckerdale and put her on the train.
How many miles is that?
Well, that's 4 miles from here. And they put her on the train and sent her to Baltimore, to Johns Hopkins.
Well, Daddy, did he operate out of the house, or did he have an office somewhere?
He had an operating room in the house.
I see.
It's kind of surprising that you didn't become a doctor too, with you that much exposure to the.
Well, he was named for Dr. Hunter McGuire, who was a famous teacher in Richmond Medical School, wasn't he?
He was a teacher in Richmond. I don't know how famous he was.
Sufficiently
Well,
famous that your
still
daddy
got
knew him.
Dr. Hunter McGuire.
They've got a hospital named for him in Richmond now. Hunter McGuire Veterans Administration Hospital.
Well, he must have been
Pretty
relatively famous.
Yeah.
So,
Why'd you move to Chilhowie? Was that to go to college?
Well, partly, and partly because Daddy had a stroke, and it was hard on him in the roads over here using a horse. He had a car, but couldn't take the car many places. And he needed to get where he could use the car more, and also to send us to school at Emory and Henry.
How old was he when he had a stroke?
I can't remember that. I don't know.
He was, it was before he was elderly.
Oh yeah, he was in his 40s, I guess.
I see. But he was able to keep on practicing for 20 years or more after that.
Yeah, he practiced until he was up in his 70s.
and now what was your family, brothers and sisters?
Well, I was the oldest, and Dean was next, and about 16 months between us. And then, let's see, Ruth was born in 1913. I guess Dean was 10 years older than her. Hope was born in 1917, and Frances in 1923, I think.
Oh,
25, no, 25, I guess.
You were in law school at Harvard when
Yeah, when
Frances was born.
Well, I went to law school in
I'm getting
23.
right on.
Okay, why don't you pause?
Somewhere like Troutdale and leave me. And I'd get so upset. I thought you and John were going off and leave me. He was the neighbor boy. Lived right across the creek, and he'd come over and play every day. And he's a little bit older than Clara. And they treated me mean.
And then he ended up living right down the creek from him.
They started off living right there.
Yeah, he'd always lived there. Yeah. It's been sealed as sheetrock because we couldn't heat it after we put heat in the house. And we had to put sheetrock in here and lower the ceiling. It used to be paneled with oak and linwood. which is linden wood.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mantel is yellow poplar. And the doors are yellow poplar. And the old clock over on the wall is over 200 years old. It belonged to my great-grandfather. And the desk is old. It's one of the old pieces in the house. And my grandfather, Johnson Perkins, requested that it never go out of the Perkins name. So I have one great nephew, Eddie Perkins, that'll probably get it when I'm gone. He's not married and he's in college now. Let's go to the dining room now. The dining room, the walls are oak and the ceiling is linden wood. And we've had the ceiling lowered in here. And that's the end of the west end seal. This one here are from the Johnson Perkins home, my grandfather's home.
So how old is that cupboard likely to be?
Oh, that cupboard would be over 100 years old. A lot of furniture in his home, all beautiful pieces. And my father said that all.
Okay.
And it's walnut and oak. The wainscoting around here is walnut and oak. And the ceiling is chestnut. And we made a bedroom out of this after we put heat in the house.
Now about this crib.
Oh, we were all rocked in this little cradle here. Used to have rockers on it. This old bed came out of Johnson Perkins' home, and this old dresser and a table. A lot of these chairs all came out of the Perkins home. The old Johnson Perkins home. Walls here, and the stairway here is oak and walnut. Now there's in this newel post, it's 102 pieces in it.
And your brother
And
built
my
that?
brother used to make these, turn these little fancy things with a hand lathe.
That's beautiful.
He was 16 or 17 when this house was built.
Tell me about this
Well,
one.
they were put there when the house was built. Just fancy hinges.
You were just telling me that you'd slide down the stairs, these banisters?
Yeah, the railing.
Didn't it hurt when you hit the pointy part?
No, not bad. Linwood and
Now there must have been some kind of addition because I see a window here that's been boarded up.
where?
Right here behind you. I'm completely wrong, that's a doorway. Okay.
It's a long time before I ever noticed this. You see, these boards are, they're not like these boards here.
Yeah.
See, they're wide.
They're not as thick.
Yeah, no, they're not. For all the way up, you see, from here. They're plain planks.
That the only place in the house?
Yeah, that's the only place in the house.
Any ideas of why?
I don't know why they did it. I reckon they ran out of wood, maybe, right at that time. I mean, planks. These, kind of. Why?
It doesn't seem to mind.
Now this ceiling is chestnut, and the walls are oak. This bed is walnut, and over here, oak. This dresser's oak.
Now, how old is that bed?
This bed would be 150 or 200 years old. But my father bought this bed and this dresser and that washstand right there.
Bathroom?
The first bathroom was upstairs here, and my daddy built the rooms for the bath, 2 baths, for one downstairs and one upstairs. But we never did put one in until after we grew up. I was good size. Well, in fact, I was teaching school before we had the bathroom downstairs.
Wow.
We used that room just kind of as a pantry room. And there's always been paper. They never did finish the walls with any kind of varnish. It has that old bed is the oldest thing there, and then that old chair right there, and this chair is real old. You turn out that light for me, Kathy. My sister Alta and I always roomed together. We liked this room. We thought it's warmer in the wintertime, and it was just a little brighter and all. I don't know why we loved it better than any other room in the house. So we both stayed in here.
And the beds, do you know?
These old beds, they aren't old. We have given, you see, my sister Stella got several pieces out of the house when she married. And we gave her some of the furniture that was in this room.
Before you had heat put in, did you used to use all the fireplaces?
We had stoves to put in. Let me show you where we connect the pipes. All of them have these, we call them thimbles. See right there? Put the pipe in all of these rooms upstairs here, except that room over the kitchen. We didn't have a place to have a fire there. But we'd open that kitchen door, you know, down on the stairs there, and heat it enough to make it warm enough to sleep up here. And then I've had this bathroom repapered since my sister Alta died. And then in here, this is a scrappy lumber in this room. It has this old bed is one of the oldest beds. This was my grandmother's bed, and it had, you see these holes here that's been filled up, this cord bed. They called it a cord bed. You know, just ropes around it in place of springs. They didn't have springs on it. And she slept on it. Then they'd and she had a straw tick, you know, just straw from the field, you know, and they'd thrash the wheat and get the straw, and they'd fill a tick, you know, and big enough for the bed, and then they'd put a feather bed on top of that. And that's what she slept on.
That sounds great.
And after we my sister and I had it made longer. It was a short bed. We had these pieces made. They're cherry, and so we could use it as a regular bed.
People shorter back then?
Well, I reckon they were. My grandmother must have been the short woman. I don't know how she could sleep on it. But it was just about a foot shorter than that. But I think it's a beautiful old bed. I think
Yes.
it's so pretty, but it's never been refinished. And that's an old trunk. But you know, your grandmother has the prettiest old trunk that was over here. If you notice that trunk there, now that was over here. See, that belonged to my mother. And this one.
Well, now tell us about those doors.
Huh?
Tell us about those.
Yeah, these old doors were in my great-grandfather's log house. And they're yellow poplar.
So those doors are likely to be a couple of hundred years old now.
Oh yes, they're 200 years old or more.
It's difficult to tell. I don't know if I can get this on the film, but the doors are held together not with nails,
That's right.
but with wooden pegs.
Wooden
And
pig.
if you go point to one of them, Aunt Claire, it's.
All right.
I'd love to.
Right here.
Yes, you see that there's no nails in
Here's
that door.
another
It's,
one.
it's all wooden
They
pegs.
don't have many in there. Let's see. Down here's another one. Down there. Down here. That needs. You see, I don't know what has made it fade down here. This part's prettier than that part down there. Before we had heat put in the house, you know, we didn't we had electric heater, but he thought that he'd get the heat from the kitchen, and we'd leave that door open and the heat would come up and go into the bathroom. But it didn't work too good. It didn't warm it. So we still had to use the electric heater. These old chairs here, we have 9 of these chairs. Now they were used in my grandfather's home. There's 9 of them here. We painted one white, and a lot of them need new bottoms in them. They ought to be, you see, there's one behind you, one behind you.
Tell us about Dad in the back stairs.
And tell you about Dad and what?
The back stairs and running.
How downstairs to find out if they're
Yeah. Your daddy, when he was a little boy,
This is Mac Jones now.
Mac Jones, would come down the stairs here and come to the kitchen door down at the foot of the stairs and ask, he'd say, "Grandmother, what do you have for breakfast? Do you have any brown gravy?" And if she'd say yes, he'd say, "Good." And then he'd walk on down in the kitchen for his breakfast. But if she'd say, "We don't have any this morning, Mac," he'd just get up and turn around, come back up the steps and go back to bed. My sister and I had this bathroom put in, my sister Alta, after we started teaching school, which was 1922. And we've had, this room kitchen has been sheetrock, but the ceilings haven't been lowered. And it's been painted 2-3 times.
This was the original kitchen in the original house.
You see where we used to put the pipe from the old kitchen range, right up there? And it has a fireplace behind this, the electric stove. We had a fireplace. And my mother she used to always cook her beans up in the fireplace there, you know, to save stove wood. and especially...
About the fireplace and you're cooking the beans?
Yeah, the fireplace. My mother used to cook beans in a big pot on the fireplace.
Alrighty.
And after we put in the electric stove and closed up the fireplace, then we had a little oil heater right here at this spot. A little oil heater that we'd heat the kitchen with after we did away with the old wood range.
And when was that?
Oh, let me see, that, I don't know how long ago that's been. About 1950.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a trundle bed, and let's see, now you're...
In the room that's the living room now, you all slept in there?
Uh-huh, we did, all the three of us, the three children, you know, Mattie and Clara and Alpha, and our daddy and mother. And that trundle bed, I think your grandmother has it. I believe it's in Charlotte.
I believe it is.
I believe it is. I believe that's in Charlotte. You know, just a little bed that slipped under the big bed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yes, we used to sleep in that. But yeah, I think your grandmother has it.
All right.
Right out here.
Hang on just 1 second while I can hear you.
Big flat rock. That came out of Timothy, great-grandfather Timothy's log house. I mean, he had that in his front door. Now, I'm not sure where the old log house was. I've got a paper that I want to read to you about the slaves here on the place.
Okay.
But,
Get that tomorrow, maybe.
this, now the first spring house that we ever had, long time ago when I was about 2 or 3 years old, was up here, back behind this building right here. It was, I come out this, see that great big sycamore tree up here?
Mm-hmm.
It was right under there. Right there's the spot where the old spring house was. But we always, I can't ever remember having to carry water from up there. But we always had the water pumped here on the porch. Our water used to be pumped on the porch. And we had a spring here.
Now you'll have to tell us then, Claire, what was the spring house for? Because most of us don't remember that.
Spring house was where we kept our milk and butter. You see, we didn't have any refrigerators.
Mm-hmm.
This was built in 1911. See, it's got the date on it. I was 11 years old when my daddy built this. And we cut the water out. It used to be the spring, you know, that's full of water. And
I don't think I stand a chance of.
there's a bean left. Okay. This was, where's Kathy?
She's back there.
It's so over a mess right now.
Oh, wow.
This was full of water, or not full, but anyway, we kept crocks in there with milk in it. And I'll explain this. Dick Glenn, you know who Dick Glenn is, Reese?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dick married Elizabeth Rowe. Well, when he was quite young, his mother used to bring him up here because his mother, Dick's grandmother, was reared here. My father was her guardian. And my mother would keep milk here, and she'd have night's milk and milk for cottage cheese. That was when it was getting old. And then the morning milk and the night milk, you know. She'd usually have 2 crocks for that. And Dick made that for Mama to put that. She put lids. Let's see, well, if I've got any of those old lids. I don't have any of those old crocks either, I don't think. But it's sure got a lot of antiques in it.
Now this is the lumber house we're headed for.
Yeah, the lumber house. I don't know why they called it the lumber house. It's just sort of a cast-off place. for anything they didn't want, they put in here. You see, it's a kind of a tool house, Lee. You see, here's the workbench, and this, you see, places to hang all these things around here. Come in here. Guess what this thing is right here? What would that be for? You don't have any idea what it would be
No.
for? That's what they dehorn cattle with. Cut their horns
Oh,
off.
gee. Ow.
Oh, that's the awfulest time when they'd dehorn those little calves, or when the horns started growing, they'd cut them off, you know, and the poor little old things would just bawl and carry on awful. They used to have a place over here close to the barn. And we just keep old things in here. A lot of old stuff, and up in the attic, it's full of old, trashy stuff.
How old is this building?
Oh, this was here when my daddy built the house. You see, the floor has given away. It needs to be repaired. These old bottles up here. Look, turn around here and look at these old bottles. See, some of them are real old.
Your daddy wasn't in the moonshine business now, was he?
No, he wasn't in the moonshine business, but we've just kept those from a long time ago.
All right.
This old thing right here, we used to, it had a big top on it, you know, a thing that would hold your apples, and we'd put them in there and turn the crank. It's got a crank here. We'd turn this crank and it'd grind up the apples, and it would all the apple would go down in here, and the juice would pour out down here.
Put a picture
We make
underneath and
cider.
scoop it up.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Wow.
That old thing is really old. That was my grandfather's purse. I guess that it would work if it stands up, but it's so old it might fall down now to try to use it. But I know how we used to make cider, get that thing out, and that was a great time around here to make cider. When we'd kill hogs, have all that meat and everything.
Wow.
We used to love farm to kill hogs, so it was a great day when they had all that meat.
All that fresh meat for once. Huh?
Yeah. Good sausage and much good meat.
What kind of meat did you eat otherwise?
Well, we'd have beef occasionally. But you couldn't, you know, we couldn't go to the stores. They didn't keep meat in the stores. And you couldn't buy fruits in the stores. You didn't ever have any fresh fruits. Only what you raised on the farm. We had apples, was about all we had. And then we'd pick strawberries and wild berries in the summer. And my mother'd can those. And then, of course, we always had the garden. And our vegetables, and she'd can beans and vegetables. And she used to can the meat, you know, when we'd kill hogs. She'd can a lot of meat. Oh, here's the tongue.
Okay.
We're through. But there's nothing more to say or do.
You're true, huh? Okay, we have a couple things we'd like to discuss. What were holidays like when you were little kids? Hey, just somebody go first.
You talking about Christmas?
We didn't,
Go Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Holidays didn't mean much to us.
Christmas did.
Yes,
Christmas did.
Christmas was quite a...
But we didn't have turkey and
No.
a big spread for Thanksgiving
No.
like we did in later years.
No, we didn't.
What was
But,
Christmas?
We'd
Tell us
always
about
hang
Christmas.
up our stockings at Christmas time. And our father would wrap the gifts in the old newspapers, you know. And that's the way found out about Santa Claus is I saw W.J. Perkins on the, that's the name on the paper. When I kept noticing that, things wrapped in W.J. Perkins, and I couldn't understand it. So I kind of caught on right there about Santa Claus. And we never did get a package wrapped nicely with ribbon on it. It was always wrapped in old newspapers. And always, if we got a pretty, any kind of jewelry, I was always crazy about rings and jewelry. And that would always be in a little box. They'd order it from some jewelry
Mail order.
store. Yeah, mail order house. And it would be in a pretty little box, but it wouldn't be wrapped. And that was always in the toe of the stocking. And that was the first thing I'd do would be to look in to feel down in the toe of my stocking to see if I got any jewelry. And then we'd always get candy, a little package of candy, and we'd get some grapes, usually, or raisins, not grapes, really, just raisins. And that was about all. An orange, maybe, an orange. That was all we had in our stocking.
Well, after your discussions about the not being able to get fresh fruit, I would think that an orange and raisins might have been...
Well, an orange, that was always at Christmas
exciting
time.
stuff.
You could always buy oranges at Christmas time.
All righty.
The Christmas that stands out in my mind was when I had my hair cut. We'd always had long hair. I had my hair cut a little while before Christmas. And I didn't know if Hunter was going to come home for Christmas holidays. He was at Harvard. And,
What year would this be now?
What year would that have been?
1923, 24, or 25.
And I went out to cut a Christmas tree. And
Where'd you cut your Christmas trees?
back of the house here in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually did the chopping?
Yes, did the chopping and pulled it down. And when I got back to the house, Daddy was here. And
You had an old cap pulled down all over you.
I didn't want to see my hair. It looked terrible. My short hair. And it wasn't curled. That was before the day of permanence. And I just looked awful. And I thought he would just pay me no more attention at all after that. But I finally got up the courage to take off my toboggan. And he didn't refuse to see me anymore.
Were Christmases a time for lots of relatives gathering and things like that? Would there be a great deal of family reunions?
No, there wouldn't be any family reunion other than our just immediate family.
Granddaddy, what do you remember about Christmas?
Well, I remember getting an orange and a stick of candy for Christmas and going rabbit hunting.
Going rabbit hunting on
In the
Christmas.
snow, yeah, we could track rabbits in the snow.
I remember one thing we did at Christmas. Clara, you may have to help me on this. But we didn't have guns. But we'd always say, what was it out of a pig that we'd save to burst on Christmas morning?
Bladder.
Blow them up and burst them on Christmas morning.
Yeah, that's right. Our daddy would say, kill hogs, usually about Christmas week.
About 10. He'd kill about 10 hogs.
Well, did he sold the meat?
He didn't. We
Well,
ate the meat.
Well, we
10 hogs
canned it and
Yeah, 10 hogs.
He sold a lot of meat to the work hands. on the
Well, he
farm.
didn't sell hams. Not the hams.
No, I guess not the hams. We ate the hams.
Mm-hmm.
We
So
had
he'd
ham.
kill a bunch of
3
hogs?
times a
We
day.
had ham for breakfast every morning and every night. And
So he'd kill about 10 hogs around Christmas time, and then you'd blow up the bladders and explode them up.
We explode them on Christmas morning.
Christmas morning, that's our fireworks.
What did that smell like?
It Didn't have much fire to it, but it had noise. We'd get out there on those big rocks. And what we
Which
break
big rocks?
out here on the walk.
Okay.
What do we break them with? A hammer or a rock?
We step on them.
Oh, is that what we did? That was part of our celebrating.
I guess when Christmas came, you guys were usually pretty much snowed in. Is that right? I mean, there wasn't a
We
lot.
had a lot of snow,
Yeah,
and
we did.
we'd decorate our tree we'd pop popcorn and string it, and decorate the tree with strings of popcorn. And I guess we had a little tinsel, didn't we?
Yeah, I reckon we did.
A few decorations from the store. And what else did we use?
Well, that was about all we had on there.
On the tree?
Our daddy was afraid for us to use candles, afraid that...
He'd let us put them on the tree, but we couldn't burn them.
Yes, we couldn't burn them.
But we did have candles.
I want you to tell how you used to do your shopping when 2-3 days before Christmas you
Me?
go to the store and take the hen. Mama gives you a chicken. You and Doris Hale.
Well, that wasn't Christmas. Darcy wasn't here at Christmas. No.
I thought that was, well,
But
anyway.
We
did
wanted
some
to go
shopping.
on a little shopping trip down, about a half a mile down the creek. And Mama said, well, if we go out there and catch that old hen, we could have it. Take it and sell it. And spend all we could make on the old hen. So Doris and I stopped down at the branch between here and the little store and tried to make the old hen drink so she'd weigh more. But we had good whether she wouldn't drink. But we got our money and bought enough candy we thought it was just real exciting to have so much candy at one time.
That's when, we had, Mr. Herbert had his store over here, Bonnie, when we could go to the store. Maul
Yeah.
couldn't go to the store. Just over across the creek there.
Okay, now something that sort of I thought about yesterday is World War I. We got involved in World War I in '17 when you kids were teenagers. Was there any effect? Any of your friends going away to the war, or
Yeah.
any rationing or anything like that you remember?
Our neighbor boys went. Daddy was too young to go.
Well, I was in the SATC, Students Army Training Corps, over at Emory.
Over at Emory. And we had a victory garden. Girl Scouts, you remember the Girl Scouts having a
Yeah.
victory garden?
Victory Garden and,
And we tried to plow it ourselves, but we had to finally weaken and let some man help us.
yeah,
with
and
the plowing.
we raised beans to sell.
It wasn't much of a success. We weren't very proud of our project.
Was there rationing during the
Oh,
war
yes.
here?
I think so.
I don't remember it in the First World War. Probably was some.
Well, the rationing during the Second World War was famous,
Yeah,
but I don't know if
involved.
our involvement in the First World War ever got to such a degree that.
I don't remember whether we had any rationing then or not.
Maybe we didn't.
Okay.
I know.
After all, when you get our age, you forget a few things, don't you?
I suspect you remember the rationing from the Second World War.
Yeah, I do. I remember
Oh, goodness,
rescuing
yes.
people at school because I had started teaching, you see, and I had to go to Lansing and spend the day and register people for their rations for sugar. I remember that very well.
You mentioned that you were Girl Scouts.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we were Girl
What
Scouts.
did you do in the Girl Scouts?
All the things Girl Scouts are supposed to do. We had to pass our tests and get our badges, and we made our own uniforms. And we were lucky enough to have a real good leader, Minnie Bolus. And we went on hikes. We camped on White Top. We'd go up there. That's That popping is Clara's canned beans ceiling.
That's a good sign. No more botulism. Granddad, were you a Boy Scout? Or anything?
I'm not sure whether I was ever a Boy Scout or not. I don't remember.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe they had Boy
Boy
Scouts
Scouts.
when we grew up.
Well, yeah,
We
they've
had
Boy
Girl Scouts.
Well, I mean, they had it, but they didn't have
They didn't
it.
have a troop here. I remember.
All right. I was reading Mr. Fletcher's book about Ashe County, and apparently there was a fairly large black community, which I assume were ex-slaves. What was the interaction between you and the black community? Did you know little black kids when you were growing up, or was it two separate worlds?
Two separate worlds for us, because we didn't have any anywhere around here. Except our few old slaves that used to come back to visit. That's all I can remember.
And you remember the slaves from the family? I mean, of course, they would free
I
them.
remember.
There's one old lady, we called her Dell. Now she was a slave, and then she had a brother. Was her brother named Charles? That's her brother, wasn't it?
I don't know.
And then she had a son named Win.
Winfield Perkins.
Uh-huh.
Well, of
Winfield
course, their
Perkins.
last name was Perkins.
And
And-
I know our daddy got a love letter from that Win, colored man.
No, it was supposed to have been from Black Winfield Perkins,
Yeah,
from his girlfriend, and it
Yeah.
came to Papa.
and he got it.
Oh, I
But
see.
we were real good friends. We'd go to visit Delph and her
Yeah.
family, and they'd come see us.
Where do they live?
At Rugby, about 6 miles from here. And she'd come and spend the weekends with us.
Hang on. Do the camera work here for a minute. Okay, Granddaddy. Let's see. Let's talk. What are your recollections about black folks in the community? Do you have any friends that were black?
No, I don't remember ever seeing one around this community. First time I ever came in contact with them was when we moved away from here.
So you never saw one as long as you lived in the valley.
No?
I don't think we've ever had a black family to live in this community since I grew up.
There were such a few slaves around here.
Gotcha. All right, Granddaddy. What? Tell me about going to church or going to Sunday school when you were a kid, Granddaddy. What was your?
Well, we had to go to Sunday school every Sunday. Didn't have any choice.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the other children would stop at the swimming hole, and we'd like to do that, but we couldn't. We had
If you wanted to keep your rear end in proper shape. So did you go to Sunday school and then a church service, or?
yeah,
Have to stay
Church
for both.
church service.
Yeah,
And we'd go to the revival meetings on nights, weeknights, Sunday nights. Hear Bill Eller preach.
Tell them what we did after the service was over.
Well, I don't know what we did. What did you do?
Well, the boys would see the girls home.
Oh, is that?
That's when we did our courting.
And was this after Sunday service? Is you with the?
No, that was at night.
night.
That was at
I
night.
see.
Night. After the evening service.
So you boys would walk all the girls home.
Boys would walk the girls home because it was a rough walk on the rocky roads up here. They needed some help.
Well, that's just, tell Granddaddy, I guess you're as good as anybody. Tell about the two mills, or there was the mill here up from the cabin, and then there was the dam and the mill race down below on the creek. What?
Well, I have no recollection of the one that was on this side of the creek down at this end, but the woolen mill operated by the Littlewoods across the creek from here, from the Perkins house. was in operation when I was young, and the dam just below their cabin turned the water into a race, carried the water to the wheel that turned the machinery in the factory. And just opposite the church was a mill dam that diverted the water in a race down to the old flour mill just above our present cabin, and that was operated by the Perkins family till recent years, and people came in with their corn and wheat in sacks on the back of a horse,
Wagon load.
and sometimes with a wagon. They would grind the corn and make meal, and they would grind the wheat and make flour. What was the name of the flour you sold?
Lucy Bell.
Lucy Bell flour.
Lucy Bell.
Named after.
Our mother was named Bell, and our aunt,
Was Lucy.
whose husband was in with our father in the business of the mill, her name was Lucy. So they call the flour Lucy Bell.
Do you know how Granddad? Do you know how how the trading took place? What did the farmer get when he brought his corn in? Did he get a certain amount of flour in return? And
He got all of it except what the miller took out for his services. I've forgotten how much he would take out, but he would get a certain part of the. Do you know how much he got?
No, I don't.
No, I don't know how much they.
But he got a certain portion. Then
Well,
that's
but
what was
that's-
sold as Lucy Bell
that's-
flour.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes they'd have to drive so far to bring a load of wheat that they'd have to spend the night somewhere. So of course we had to keep them overnight. And a man brought a nice present one day of a bucket of honey, wasn't it, Clara? A bucket of honey. And Mama said, "What in the world is this?" He said, "You kept me overnight and I don't aim to be out clevered." So he was going to pay Mama back for keeping them overnight.
What was it they called the part that the miller took out? Was it toll?
Yes, I guess that was. They called it the toll.
And that's where the term came from. Sure. And so, of course, you all got all your cornmeal and all your flour from right across the street. Now, your
Yeah.
father ran that mill?
Sure. Our father, well, he didn't run it himself.
He didn't run it
had,
himself. The miller.
He had a miller to do it.
Okay.
He had a lot of millers, different ones.
Well, your brother did run it for a long time.
Yes, he did. Our brother
Yeah,
and
brother.
Arthur Perkins, a cousin, ran it for a while. They did the actual work.
And Ed Rowe ran it for a while.
All right. Let's.
But Papa's main job was to sit on the bench and entertain the people who brought the wheat and things.
Keep them interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Granddaddy, I'd like to hear your thoughts about the first automobiles you all started to see. Now tell us, you said you used oxen? Tell us.
There was oxen and horses. We'd have oxen pull a wagon lots of times, and did mostly plowing with oxen. And then a little later they used horses more. Some people used mules. I think the Perkins used mules more than horses. Is that right?
Yeah, we had mule teams.
Mm-hmm. And then tell us about as the cars started to show up.
Well, I think Bob Barr had the first car in the county, and then
Who was he? Was he somebody of some renown?
Yeah, from West Jefferson.
he was from Jefferson. They didn't have any West Jefferson back then, and he was a big man in the county. And then Harrison Tucker over at Tuckerdale had the second one. And I think my daddy had the third one. It's a little, what you call a runabout, one-seated car. And I expect that Perkins probably had the fourth one or somewhere along there.
And that's when you, I guess you got your first ride shortly thereafter, or I guess.
Yeah.
My first ride was in 1914.
Yeah, I want to hear that story. You've got to tell us about the first
Well,
car ride.
I was visiting down the road at my aunt's, Aunt Lou Perkins' home, and this man drove down in this automobile, and all we saw.
Who was it?
It was Mr. Bob Barr from
Okay.
Jefferson. And we were so excited, and we all ran out in the yard, a car coming. And so he stopped and said, would you like to take a ride? And of course, all of us said, yes, we'd love to take a ride. So he piled as many as he could get in the car and turned around and came back up the road and drove up to the top of the hill and brought us back down. And I never will forget that. That was great. That's just wonderful to ride in a car. That's 1914.
1914. So, and I guess you've been hearing about them and such, but.
Oh yes, we'd heard about
And Mattie and Clara's cousin Gert had a car, and she would run from one side of the road to the other. And every time anybody would meet her, they'd pull way off the road so she could get by. And she took Mattie with her for her crank.
to crank the automobile. You couldn't. They didn't have.
Didn't have
that.
starters.
No.
And she'd stall that car in the middle of the creek every time.
In the middle of the creek,
And I'd
there was a
have-
ford?
I'd have to wade out and crank it
There was a ford through the creek now.
forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they called me Cousin Gert's Crank.
And that's originally the story of grandmother being cranky. All right, grandmother, now that you're on the subject, tell us about learning to drive. When did you learn to drive?
Well, I was 15 years old. And I learned right down here in the horse lot.
Who taught you how to drive?
John and Dickie did. One of Stella's, one of our sister's
Boyfriend.
boyfriends.
He was from Bridle Creek.
And I believe he's the one that
Started out.
me.
She didn't need much. You just learned right away.
She had spent so much time cranking them.
I learned before she did.
Some 50 years before she did.
More than that. Yeah.
Well, now I understand that your father was not real big on women doing mechanical sorts of things, doing things that he considered to be men's jobs. How did you get away with learning how to drive?
I don't know. He always seemed willing for us to do anything we could do. I didn't know he was peculiar about
That's
the jobs.
that's only what I've heard in the family. But do you think he?
Well, he didn't want us to teach school. You know, he said that he thought that he could support us and that we wouldn't have to teach school.
All right. Now, how did you?
And Mattie said, well, she said, I want to teach school so I can buy my trousseau. And our father couldn't hear very well, and he said, confound, I guess I can buy you tombstones.
Okay. Well, while we're kind of sort of on the subject, why don't whoever's Dad, who you got the camera on?
I need a little thought before he turns that camera on.
It's too late. He's got the camera on.
No.
The Dixon's house that we just drove by today, I understand you used to take day trips over there.
Take what?
To the Dixon's house.
I walked across the hill.
You're walking across the hill to the Dixon's house.
Didn't you remember that, man? Have you ever walked across
Sure
the
you
hill?
walk.
Oh, I guess I have.
We used to go
If
with,
you did, I was with you.
we used to go with Dealey, you know, across the hill and go over there to Mr. Doug Dixon's store.
Yes, that's right, we did.
Take.
One of the Dixon boys made some trips over here.
Yeah, the Dixon boys made many trips over here.
So that's
You
how
don't
it
remember about that though, do you?
No.
Well, let's get who. When do you tell us about? Speaking of teaching careers, I'd like to hear a little about teaching careers. Why, somebody start. Grandmother, why don't you tell us sometime you started going to high school and then got into your teaching up in Marion and so
And getting what?
on, and getting into your teaching.
Well, we got into teaching sort of accidentally. Our daddy, we had finished junior college, and he meant for us to go on and finish at four-year college. And one day we were going to Lansing, and we met the district superintendent, county superintendent, county school, Mr. Charlie Dixon, the man who lived in the house that you just
Big
saw.
brown house.
And this is for
And
Ashe
he
County.
needed some teachers over at Lansing and wanted to know if we would consider teaching. And oh, it sounded so good to us. Goodness, we were going to make almost $100 a month, weren't we?
No,
90?
about $62.
Oh, is that all? But anyway, it sounded good to us. We thought that was fine. So we came back and told them that we'd had this offer for a school. And Papa didn't approve at all, but he would agree if we'd go on back after we taught a year. We said, just let us teach a year, then we'll go back and finish our education. So we taught, and
What grade did you teach?
You were principal, man.
afraid you were going to ask that.
You didn't have any experience?
No.
Well, now, did you all promise to go back to a four-year college?
I think we did, and well, yeah,
Broke the
we.
promise.
Well, you helped me break my promise. You came into the picture. Clara and Helton went on to school.
Now wait a minute. So
Some schools-
you were getting back to the story here about you being the principal. I want to hear about this. You
Well,
just-
I told them that I wasn't going to be in charge of the discipline for the whole school. That somebody else would have to be responsible for that. And we had a man teacher who was well up in years. I guess he had grandchildren, didn't he, Clara?
Sure, I think so.
And he agreed to be responsible for disciplining the children. And I was crazy for trying to
But
take
she
the
got
job.
along fine. For the,
And what were your duties? I mean,
Well, what were they? I had to teach. The principal had to teach just the same as anybody else. So I taught some of the high school classes by studying harder than the children. I had to get my lessons prepared ahead because I knew that they knew more better than I did. Well, I had one boy I remember, just as soon as he'd get his history book, he'd just settle down and read it straight through. He just couldn't wait. And I knew he knew more history than I did. But I struggled along and tried to get through.
and so you taught for how long?
I taught 6 years, but I wasn't the principal 6 years. I think that's all I
now,
did.
just
1 year, wasn't it?
we taught 5 years in Lansing, you know,
Yeah.
before you.
And then I went to
graduated.
Clemens and taught a year.
Went to Clemens.
And I taught 5th grade.
Now, what period was this that these 6 years that you were teaching in Lansing? What years was this?
That was, we started teaching in 22,
And
and
then,
we taught there 5 years.
and then
And then she went to Clemens, and I went to Grace Creek after that. And taught 1 year at Grace Creek.
And we went to summer school. We went to Duke to summer school
Yeah.
one summer. And then Clara and Alta went
We went to Appalachian
uh,
Teachers College, it was called.
until they got their A certificates.
Age-
And I got a different kind of a degree, didn't I?
and then that's when you all moved to Charlotte.
Yeah. Got married after I taught 1 year at Clemens.
And after that 1 year at Grace Creek, I came back to Lansing. No, I went to West Jefferson then and taught 5 years in West Jefferson. And from West Jefferson, I came back to Lansing and finished out my 46 years there.
So you did eventually go back and got your certificates.
Yes,
You and Alton did
yes,
that.
you had to do that.
At least some of those girls kept their promise to their daddy. Let's see.
I wanted to tell about when we first started teaching, we taught with 2 men. There's just 4 of us, Mattie and these 2 men, and they were kind of old like men, and you see they kind of handled the discipline of the school if anybody got a little unruly. And there's one man, especially I remember, he chewed tobacco. And he'd chew tobacco during the class and spit out the window. Anytime he'd teach his class and have tobacco in his mouth and spit out the window.
Okay. Punch your At this point, we're looking down the far side of the hill behind the cabin, down under the other little road that runs down there.